Hello and welcome to another tutorial from CamiPaige Boutique. I'm Brooke Tannehill and today I'm going to show you how I created this folk art inspired tumbler using the technique of applying white vinyl under a vibrant water slide. I love this method of getting colorful and intricate designs onto a tumbler because I don't have to mess with the print and cut feature when using printed vinyl, and the colors come out poppin' a lot more in my opinion. As always, all the products I use will be listed in the description below, and you may even find a coupon or code or two that saves you some coin. Also, come join our exclusive Facebook group where you can take advantage of upcoming freebies and giveaways that you aren't going to want to miss. So without further hesitation, let's go ahead and get started. For this design, I chose a 30-ounce straight skinny from Parish Tumblers, prepped it, sanded it, then took it outside and spray painted it with Claret Wine from Rust-Oleum 2X Spray Paint and Primer. Then I let that dry for a couple of hours, and then I mixed up 10 milliliters of a little extra ink epoxy and started to apply it to my cup so that we could utilize the epoxy method for applying our glitter. After we got the cup nice and coated, I grabbed Sangria from Boujie Glitter Boutique, and I just kind of went to town applying the glitter all over the cup because there's only going to be a single color glitter that we utilized on this. While this glitter though, even though it's just like a single color, it does have a lot of depth in it because even though it's this really pretty burgundy, there are definitely kind of plum tones and a lot of dimension in this mix. So I highly recommend this color, and it came out 10 times more beautiful than I could have ever expected. After the cup was good and coated, I let it dry for about 2 hours, and then I spray sealed it once with a pretty heavy coat of Rust-Oleum clear gloss. I like the gloss spray paint because it does come out a little bit thicker, and I feel like it seals the glitter just a little bit better, but use whatever you have on hand. Don't feel like you have to go out and get something just because that's what I use. I let the clear gloss spray paint dry for about probably an hour or two, and then I went in with 2 coats of a little extra ink epoxy, both coats being 20 milliliters, letting them dry for about 6 hours, and then it was time for sanding. For this cup, I started at the upper rim and I grabbed my 120 grit flap wheel from Dremel, and I turned that Dremel on full bore, and I am just slowly going around the rim of the cup just to expose a little bit of stainless so the upcoming coats of epoxy have something to really grip to, and it makes the longevity of your cup really hang in there. After that, I grabbed my 120 grit sanding block and just went through and smoothed out because there could be a little bit of a ridge when you're using a flap wheel. So what I like to do is just grab my sanding block, just smooth that out and create a nice lip where somebody could drink out of. Then after that, I went to the bottom of the cup, and I am using my sanding block instead of my sander for this one just because it is a metallic glitter, and because we had 2 nice coats of epoxy on it, everything was relatively smooth, so I just hand sanded this cup this time around. Once I had everything sanded the way I liked it, I did go ahead and wash this cup with soap and water, just Dawn dish soap, let that dry, and then it was time to move into our vinyl. So this SVG for the design and then also the PNG for the colorful part will be listed in the CamiPaige Boutique Facebook group. But what I did is I just cut out the SVG for the behind of the flowers using just Oracal 651 and wrapped it around the cup just like I've done my normal vinyl wraps in the past. And I can definitely link other tutorials that I've done that explains this process. But I just worked my way around the cup, making sure that all of the flowers are nice and pressed down and making sure to get out any bubbles, because if you do have any bubbles during this process, it will show underneath the water slide. So you really want to make sure that you're taking your time getting the vinyl nice and pressed down, and then you can go ahead and remove your transfer tape. So I kind of do it twice. So I'll press it down really nicely with the transfer tape on, and then I'll work my way around the cup a second time and just make sure that everything is nice and adhered to the cup before I move into the water slide. Also, ask me how I know, but take your time pulling up the transfer tape because you can pull up some of these designs and it's gonna look funny when you go into your water slide. I printed this design out on Hippo Waterslide paper, then I sealed it 3 times with Krylon triple thick, letting it dry for about 20 minutes between each coat. And then what I'm doing is I'm applying the flowers one by one over the top of the vinyl. So because the print that you see there, like the water slide matches up the vinyl, it kind of works as a nice guide as I work around the cup. So the reason why I'm cutting out the flowers individually is because since we added the vinyl to the cup, there is an elevated surface. So it's not like we're just applying the water slides directly onto a nice smooth epoxied surface. We do have that little bit of an elevation because we added that layer of vinyl. So for that reason, you do want to cut out the flowers individually, just so you don't have a bunch of just kind of like gaping places where the water slide isn't touching the cup, because you would see that when you went into epoxy. So just apply the flowers one by one. The one I'm showing you right here, it got messed up, so I had to reprint this out and reapply it, but it's no big deal. I'm just trying to show you my struggle bus moments, but it actually lines up pretty nicely with all of the water slides. And this process could be a little cumbersome at times, but it goes pretty quickly just because I'm following the layout of the sheet to my side. So just to kind of talk through my process, what I do is I cut out a flower, put it in the water. What happens is when you drop it in the water, if you've never worked with a water slide before, it tends to curl up immediately. Once it starts to unfold itself and kind of open up, that's how you know that the water slide is ready to be applied to the cup. So I like to leave the backing on until I get right up to the cup, because what happens is when I lay that backing down on top of the vinyl, it adds just enough water so that I could really smooth out the flowers or the water slide, get it in place. Then I come over it with my silicone brush and just squeegee out any extra water. And then I take a coffee filter to kind of push off any excess water and get it all nice lined up and in place and ready to dry. So just make your way around the cup, applying the water slides. Now, I did not make sure that the water slide was 100% lined up, because this is folk art. It's supposed to be whimsical, and I just kind of let it go and flow with the design. Once all of the water slides were applied, I let the cup dry for about 2 hours. Now this is probably a little excessive because it was dry to the touch about 30 minutes later, but I do not seal this. I just go straight into epoxy. And so here what you can see is I'm using the boat prop epoxy mixers from CamiPaige Boutique. I will list them below in the description, but I was actually working on a couple of cups during this time. So I mixed up 60 milliliters, and you can see how that bad boy just whips that epoxy like nothing. So I love these things, highly recommend them. This is a product from myself, so sorry for the shameless plug, but I just like these prop mixers because it mixes the epoxy a lot faster. You're not having to strain your wrist or your hand, and it does not introduce a bunch of bubbles into the epoxy. So you get nice smooth epoxy every time when you coat it to your cup. And speaking of coating your cup, this cup needed about 20 milliliters on the first coat, but it did require 2 final coats of epoxy for it to be done. And this baby came out wonderfully. I was so surprised because I kind of had a vision in my mind, because I just love folk art and kind of like the American version and some of the Scandinavian designs that you see. And I wanted to create a cup that really brought all of those elements together. So I was super, super happy with how this came out. And here she is. The vibrant colors, the glitter, and the floral design elements really all come together nicely to create this design. It is so easy to make, and this technique can be leveraged for endless possibilities. I hope this tutorial was helpful and inspired you to create something beautiful. If you have any questions about any of the steps or information, please feel free to reach out, and I will be more than happy to help. As always, thank you for watching. It really means a lot to me. If you like this tutorial, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you can see future videos. You can also ring the bell so you are notified of all future cup making goodies. Thank you again. I love you guys. Bye.